Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. Actually, it's kind of frozen here and cold and rainy and foggy and weird like that, where the weather is doing everything all at the same time except for being sunny. And anyway, I'm here with my good friends, Chris and Karen, and Catherine's hanging out in the background too. And then anybody who wants to join us, you can jump on here weekly with us by going to zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. Again, that is zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. And today we're going to talk about how to live without judgment in your life, whether that is being judgment free of yourself or being free from judgment of others. And the reason we're talking about that is because we're discussing verse 49 of the Tao Te Ching as interpreted by Wayne Dyer in his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. So before we get started with that, though, I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. So guys, you want to jump out and say hey? Hey, hey.
Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you, Chris. I keep pointing at the wrong little mute deal. Something that you said in there, Catherine, saying that this was as interpreted by Wayne Dyer with his Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. We're doing our interpretation. And I find that really cool as I look around at different things that are available to learn about the Tao Te Ching. You can see that there's a real place for everybody doing their own interpretation. I found someone from like 1800 and something who he looked like he was a stoner dude. Looked pretty wild and crazy. But he was the most interesting interpretation I had seen of whichever verse it was. I don't think it was this verse necessarily. But it does make me appreciate that there's lots of different ways to look at this. And again, I'm probably mainly interested because of the people who spurned the opportunity to take a good look at something that has 81 verses that have been around for thousands of years and benefited lots of people. I just think we're really fortunate that I guess that our minds were cranked open enough that we could take this on, and here we are in verse 49. So we've been coming along. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I'm Chris from the Chicago area, and I've been coming off and on for nearly a half year. It's a very enjoyable class. We learn a lot, and let's see, we still got another 31 verses to go. So it's been going really. It's been an excellent. We've been cohesive, and it's just been nice going along with this. So I had imagined that we're going to continue, depending on what the group decides. And if anyone sees the replay of this, you're welcome to come and join us. Just go to www.saturdaymorningmastermind.com and you'll see the link to this meeting. And we're here every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central. All right, back to you. Thanks a lot.
Awesome, guys. This is such a good time for us. Jason was in our chat earlier this week, and we were talking about this when we got on, was how he was like, is it Saturday morning yet? I'm like, waiting to get on this thing so we can all have a chat and have a good time. But so let's read this verse. We've got verse 49 of the Tao Te Ching. And you want to read it, Chris? You got it in front of you?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Here we go. Tao Te Ching, verse 49. The sage has no fixed mind. He is aware of the needs of others. Those who are good, he treats with goodness. Those who are bad, he also treats with goodness, because the nature of his being is good. He is kind to the kind. He is also kind to the unkind. because the nature of his being is kindness. He is faithful to the faithful. He is also faithful to the unfaithful. The sage lives in harmony with all below heaven. He sees everything as his own self. He loves everyone as his own child. All people are drawn to him. He behaves like a little child.
That little part at the end, if he behaves like a little child, kind of was like, wait a second. What does he mean by that? You know, I don't know if you guys got that. It's probably just me. At first I thought that, and then I realized what he's really saying is that he's behaving like the innocence of, you know, the innocence of a little child, and how he, you know, I mean, as a child, you don't have all those prejudices with other people. You don't have all the judgments. You don't have all of the, you know, the worries and the upsets and the frustrations and expectations and all of that kind of thing that you do when you have it as you grow up. And so it's just like, you know, look at the world through a child's eyes, look at other people through a child's eyes. And so I thought that was kind of fun.
I was being mischievous. I tried to say it like it was a little kid. That's what I was thinking.
There you go. So what do you guys think about this verse?
Well, I was saying that I was getting more enamored of it as I was waiting on you. I noticed that, well, I certainly like the first two lines. The sage has no fixed mind. He's aware of the needs of others. But then as you go through it, they're pointing out, they're kind of leading up to and pointing out the nature of the sage. The nature of his being is good. The nature of his being is kindness. He sees everything as his own self. Now, I can relate that to, you know, our nature, but also this behaving like a little child. I think initially what you were thinking that didn't sound so good to you, Samantha, is when as little children, they're just totally caught up in what they want to do, and they even pretend like they don't even know their name. They're not going to stop romping and playing and screeching and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But when you see a little child curious about an adult, you know, they're walking down the street and there's some man that, you know, for whatever reason, they're curious to, wait a minute, I had to get up early. Oh, that's too bad. I was reading Christina's thing. You know, the child can go right up, you know, just basically look up your navel, you know. You know, the top of their head might be at your belly button and they're just looking straight up at you, and you know, they're just wanting to know, and it doesn't really matter what it is that they are curious about. They want to find out. You know, they want to look at you, they want to talk to you, they want to touch you. And one of the things that I've realized is that I have long kind of had a bad habit. I swung into this bad habit, or an awareness of it. Maybe I'd had the bad habit for a really long time. But I went and spent about 10 years in St. George, Utah. I think it was 97 to 2007. And man, I think that's one of the most beautiful places on earth. And but I was in a pretty bad place within, didn't know a lot about this within stuff, and found that I was talking a lot about being offended, I called it umbrage, you know. I took umbrage from this and I took umbrage from that, and being upset and frustrated and mad and ruminating for days on, you know, some 3 or 4 words that somebody would say and things like that. And so now, if I find someone is that way, obviously I recognize that, and rather than, coming up and bumping chests together like, on the field, what I do is I try and look at it as, this person is my own self, and I'm curious, and I'm just going to listen, because as they carry on about things, they're going to tell me what's going on inside, and then I'll have a better understanding. So that's kind of some of the stuff that brought up for me. Thanks.
That's a great way of looking at things, Karen. And here it was talking about changing your judgment over to noticing, so that you, instead of sitting there talking to yourself about what you think is wrong about the other person or about yourself, is you just notice whatever that is, and just observe it. And I think that is such a huge thing, that we think that we're supposed to do or be or act or say or whatever about ourselves and about other people. And when we can switch over to just observing and just seeing what is right now in this moment, as we can realize that what it is in this moment is just peacefulness. I know it seems silly that if somebody's ranting and raving that there can be peace in that, but when you start letting all of those judgments fall away, and you let all of the shoulda, woulda, couldas and ought tos and all of that fall away, then all it is words that are floating in the air, or actions that are floating in the air, and they don't really mean anything. And because we're the ones that put meaning on everything. And when we can let go of so much of those things we think things should mean, that's when we start to find that peace inside, and that's when we start to grow and have more insights into ourselves and into others. And I love how you said that, that helped you get to know or understand that person better. And particularly when you're looking at them as if they're an aspect of yourself. That's you. It's as if it's you. So jump out, Chris.
Okay, I guess I will. Thanks. Yeah, I have a story related to that actual thing. This was Thursday. I went to, you were saying about how stillness, it's hard to think how meditation or stillness can have its effectiveness when things are chaotic or a lot of things are going on. So Thursday, I go to this recovery class, and it's called Refuge Recovery. He's putting on his first class. So it's a Buddhist theme recovery class. So I go to this, right? And there's 4 of us at this first meeting. And we do a little reading out of this book. And then we get to the part where we're all going to sit down and meditate. Well, this place is also the central hub zone for Illinois opioid addiction. So they treat all kinds of situations. Okay. Fortunately, I don't have that problem. But anyway, it's a great place. Anyway, so there's this girl in the other room having some problems. It's just not unusual. People come there like that. So right as we're about to sit down and go into meditation, the 4 of us, this girl knocks on the door just as we're going into this first meditation. It's real interesting because our field is like really strong and we're all meditating together. And she says, he says he's going to kill himself. I don't know what to do. And so Laura, the professional, she knew how to basically what to do and to take care of it. So gently she got up, went out of the room. The other lady made it clear that he was going to have to call 911. She ended up, I think they ended up calling the police. The police came to where we were and they took care of it. But the 3 of us, we didn't really have to be involved. We kind of, it was hard to meditate, but it was like clear. There was like, it's almost so much you can do. Sometimes you have to deal with stuff, but like silence is kind of part of the answer. You know, you need to do things calmly. And when you can fit that meditation in, it makes a big difference. And it was just an interesting contrast. Anyway, that was an experience I had this week. A little off the topic of the book, but.
No, I think that was perfect, Chris. That's a good thing to, because we all have these experiences throughout our lives of, something all of a sudden just happens and you have to handle it. And it's all in how you react to it because, like if you're, was she a teacher or you said professional? She just like your class teacher or what? What do you call her? Counselor?
Yeah, she was a nurse and an addiction professional.
Okay. So, she could have gone a completely different direction with all of that. She could have been like, oh my God, start going all crazy. But instead she handled it in a calm manner,
Absolutely.
which, this happens like in the medical industry a lot, as all the medical professionals in the emergency.
The nurse too. So she was prepped in that way.
Yeah. You got all these people, all these things, all these tragic things happening in the emergency room, and everybody's coming in, and they're all chaotic. And you have to be calm. Otherwise, you just add to that chaos.
Right. It's not necessarily that if someone comes in with a giant gash that you can say, "Okay, let's meditate." That's not quite realistic either. But if you
but you can come into it with a calm attitude.
You can have a calm attitude. That's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to experience, when I was a pet groomer, we'd have owners and pets that would come in and they would just be wired for sound. I mean, that's basically what you would say that it was. Is the dog's like acting like it's on caffeine and the owner is acting like she's cuckoo crazy or whatever. And you had to somehow manage to get sharp instruments around this animal and get everything trimmed without injuring it in some way. And the animal is like doing spinning on your table. And, but the only way you can handle that is with calmness. You can't get all agitated because that just makes the animal more agitated. It makes the owner more agitated. But if you can be calm, it's funny how many things you can handle with just calmness. And I think that there's a lesson in that if there's chaos going on, you have to bring calmness into it. Otherwise, it just ends up being more chaotic. But I don't know. That's just my thought on it. Karen. Over to you.
Well, I think that's really important to realize, having gone through many stages in my life, I mean, hopefully one does. Hopefully one can look back and say, well, there was a stage in my life where I didn't understand that, where I couldn't see that, where I couldn't tell that, where I didn't get that. Now, it's kind of opening up a bit, and I guess it's been in fact, I know it's been just a huge thing for me that we've been dealing with these puppies. I mean, my son creates a ruckus. One of the dogs, I don't even remember where this dog came from, but I don't think it was part of this thing. I think this was before. So we've got this little dog that's kind of maybe just a regular Chihuahua. I don't know if it's a mix or not. But, by now it's been in our home for over a year. Here's my son trying to get into his own house, and I'm hearing her just absolutely acting like, burglar, burglar, alert, alert, call the police. And he comes through the door, and he's got three little teensy weensy, different colored, just different mixes of three little Chihuahuas, and then he's got this kind of the older puppy, where you're just kind of lost lab, on a leash coming in. And it's so funny to me to realize that here I had grown up with a man who spent his high school years as a sheep herder. And so my early days, we had sheep, and being up way north, on the Wyoming-Montana border, when it would get below zero, we had my dad's in the living room holding a lamb with a big bottle with a huge black nipple on it, giving the lamb something to eat, whereas, his innards aren't so cold, he can take it in. And then we had cattle, and then, then I helped him round up cows on horseback, junior high and high school. And, I'm kind of thinking I'm kind of a, a ranchy kind of person. But I realized I'd really probably never been around more than one dog at a time, on occasion a couple dogs at a time. But to be with puppies is a whole different thing. To be with quite a number of puppies, and then you take those puppies out with other puppies. And it's interesting because some are frantic, it's just this big mewling deal. And, some are just jumping and playing. And I think it's so important to be able to have the ability to you say you can't have meditation in an emergency room. Essentially, the calm ones are. The calm ones are extricating themselves just enough distance apart from everybody else that they can say,
Okay, yeah. No, I didn't mean that. That's like mindfulness meditation, and I didn't mean that, because you can have that. What I meant is, like, you can't just sit down and go, oh,
cross your legs in ways that everybody enviably goes over and looks at you and says, how do you do that? Yeah, no, I was just trying to say that I haven't always in my life been able to separate myself enough from the crowd and the emotions. I guess probably because I'm such an emoter myself. And I tend to marry, or often marry, men that they have to do the emotional work for. And I think I've kind of got this habit of thinking that I've got to, it was subconscious. It wasn't anything I was particularly aware of, but it was kind of like, oh, that woman over there, she's so distraught. I need to go over and sob with her. That kind of thing, And I haven't always had the ability to step back and kind of take a look and say, hey, this is just fine. This is the human condition, and, we're going to get through this. And, I can be friendly, kind, good, and my own self, as opposed to trying to be codependent with everybody in the room and, stroke their back and hope that they'll kiss my face or something like that. I've obviously been up too long. Sorry.
It's all good, Karen. It's all good. I think that's an interesting perspective when you were just there talking about, when somebody else is over there and they're sobbing and they're going through their own personal drama, and how you realize now you don't have to get sucked into that emotional drama. You can stand back and you can pat them on the back and you can give them your emotional, caring. You can be friendly and empathetic and all of that kind of thing without allowing yourself to get completely drawn into that. And I think that's huge. I mean, it really is, because when we realize that we don't have to get caught up in all of the other everything that's swirling around us, then I mean, we create a big, massive space in our lives where we can have more peace and happiness and less worry and less frustration and all of those kinds of things. And, I think it's interesting. I really like this verse because of the fact that it just pretty much flat out says, this is how the sage is. This is how the person who is happy within themselves is that they're kind to the kind, they're kind to the unkind. They treat good people with goodness, and they treat not so good people with goodness. I mean, and I think that part of that is that when you start to be able to just observe versus judge, is that it's irrelevant what that person is or is not doing or how they're being. It's just they are and you are, and we're here together, and it's all good. Everything is okay. And we can go through life in that way and realize, I mean, it's like a weight is lifted off of you. And I feel for everybody who is still kind of stuck in that. And I'm not saying I'm completely out of it. Don't get me wrong. There are times where I get sucked into my own emotional drama. But when I recognize that it's happening, I can step back and be like, all right, I don't have to be as upset as I'm making myself. I don't have to experience this emotional chaos. It's not necessary. It's because I'm telling myself all this mumbo jumbo that isn't really true. So, what do you think, Chris?
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, it's a good verse. No, that's a good perspective. I was thinking, oh God, I say stuff to myself when I get up sometimes. Until I get that coffee just like you. He says, so, you think about it, sometimes, we definitely have people that are not necessarily putting such a good influence on us. Like, in my situation, it's like in my workplace, there are people who have definitely, let's say, just at least mixed energy. Recently, it's been pretty good, but let's say at least mixed energy, so, sometimes, you think about how to protect yourself or whatever, but here it clearly says, just because of the nature of being good, you just treat everyone with goodness. And that's kind of like the vinegar honey thing, I don't know who it is you give vinegar or honey. I forgot that part, but but it seems as honey.
That you can catch more bees with honey than vinegar or something like that.
Yeah, like this. So it tends to go over better. If you receive something harsh and you answer softly, it usually has a better result than flying off the handle, which I almost do sometimes too. Try to be calm though.
That's interesting, and I probably shouldn't say this on national TV. Oh, sorry, Chris. You're right. It's not national TV. It's a movie. But I guess as a form of self-protection, I have this persona that comes out with people that I don't appreciate how they're treating me. And it's very much an old school marm, watch your step, you can't best me, you can't, out talk me, you can't be better than me, you can't whatever. And I am starting to watch myself, how quickly I can turn into that. It's very, very rare that anybody comes to my door in the day and expects to get somebody to come to the door. There might be people delivering packages or whatever, but I had this man come to the door, and I mean, he was just determined that somebody was going to go to the door. By the time I got to the door, I was I had a lot of ire built up the back of my neck. And, I just treated him like he was some scruffy kid off the street. I didn't even know who he was or why he was there, who he wanted to see or whatever. And I thought, I mean, basically, he smiled and he acted like, I had just said, "Good morning, young man. What can I do for you?" I mean, he treated me like something other than I was behaving. And it's like this verse. You realize, uh, I'm not even being human. I'm just being reactive. And so whether we have to um, practice mindful meditation, while we get dressed, or whatever it is, to get ourselves closer to this sage that is being described here. I mean, if this were the only verse that we studied, in my mind, this is a fabulous verse for different people to take apart and share different things that come to their mind, and then make an effort. I really want to make an effort from this verse to try better to be the sage and the kind, good person. So watch for it.
Yeah, I just realized we're at the top of the hour. Today we started a little bit late because we were just running behind, and but anyway, I wanted to just. I know I don't want to keep Catherine too long because I don't know, she's probably got something else that she's got to do today. So I want to make sure we still end at the normal time.